Welcome to the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast. My name is Dean Jones, and this is Season 6, Episode 2. Today I'm speaking with Judy Alter, who is the author of the Blue Plate Cafe Mysteries, as well as the recent Gourmet on a Hot Plate. She is a prolific author who has written countless historical works about famous American women, many young adult novels, as well as numerous mystery series. Without further ado, I will take you to my conversation with author Judy Alter.
Welcome to the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast. My name is Dean Jones, the Well Seasoned Librarian. Today I am talking to author Judy Alter, who is the author of many books. She's very prolific, notably her Blue Plate Cafe Mysteries, as well as the Gourmet on a Hot Plate book coming out recently. Judy, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
How is Texas today?
Wet and cold.
Oh,
Icy.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've lived in Texas. What part of Texas do you live in?
North Central in Fort Worth.
I lived in Fort Worth back in the 80s. I was stationed there when they had a military base there.
It's a nice city.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked spending time in Fort Worth, going around the town. And I also loved going to Dallas and spending time in Denton as well. So, prior to becoming an author, you worked for Texas Christian University Press as an editor and then as director. What did you like about working for an academic press?
Well, an academic press has less pressure than a commercial press. You get a different kind of book. You operate at a different schedule. And I really liked it. I was very fortunate because my career at TCU helped my career as a writer. I used to give a little talk about wearing two hats in the publishing world, but one really fed the other. I met a lot of people through the press that helped me as an author, and I learned a lot about writing.
When you retired in 2009, before you retired, you'd already written an impressive amount of books, but you continued writing after that. Your first book was in the 70s after Paul was shot, and it was a young adult novel. You then went on to write a steady stream of young adult novels. Can we talk about your young adult work and what attracted you to writing for the young adult community?
I didn't know I was writing a young adult novel.
Okay.
I just told a story that I wanted to tell. It was based on a story that an older woman had told me. And when the William Morrow Company published it, they marketed it as a young adult novel. And I'm not sure how they decide, because some novels with people that age are not young adults, so you just can't tell.
Oh, that's surprising. And so, but after that, did they kind of ask you to write more, or did you decide to write more for that demographic?
After that, I was pigeonholed as a young adult author. Whatever I wrote, people said, sounds young adult to me. When I tried consciously to write for young adults, it didn't come out well. When I had the story first that I wanted to tell, and it featured a young person, then it worked much better. And I went on to write another young adult that I really liked called Luke and the Van Zandt County War, which was based on history. But after that, I really tried to become, quote, a grown-up author.
You've written a lot of historical fiction, also notable for featuring female protagonists or female historical figures. One such is Sundance, Butch and Me, which was written in 2002. Can we talk about your love of historical fiction and writing it?
I was fascinated in graduate school by the women of the American West, by the 19th century women, what they put up with, their attitude, their gutsiness, that attitude of come spring, everything will be better. I found myself writing about strong women and weak men. And finally, some editor said to me, we don't want any more failed husbands. But I wrote about Elizabeth Bacon Custer, and we all know what happened to George.
Yeah.
I wrote about Jesse Benton Fremont, who was married to John Charles Fremont, who failed at everything he tried, from being Republican governor to minor to running for president. And in a way, Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, Edda Place was Sundance's lover, and Sundance didn't come out too well. So I needed to move on. I did write one novel set in Chicago, historical, that I still think is one of the best things I've ever done.
And what book was that?
The Gilded Cage. It's about Sissy Palmer, married to Powder Palmer, who had the, no, hello, my mind went blank. The hotel downtown in Chicago. The classic, famous Palmer House.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite historical figures that you've enjoyed doing research on?
I think I enjoyed the Palmer one mostly. I am not a native Texan. I grew up in Chicago.
Oh.
And it was a great joy for me to go back and research Chicago and its history in the late 19th century. And even because of the Columbian Exposition, some of the neighborhood where I grew up.
What brought you to Texas? When did you move to Texas?
My then husband was he got a surgical residency in Fort Worth. And so I thought, well, what better time? I'll go to school and get a PhD. And so I went to Texas Christian University while he became a surgeon.
Texas can be quite a lot to adapt to. Did you find it a unique environment when you moved there, or did you just kind of fit right in?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Texas can be quite a unique environment to move into if you're not from there. Did you find it easy to adapt there, or did you find it to be a different culture?
It was a different culture. I'd never had Mexican food. There was in the 60s or 70s a big movement about born in Texas. And I could never say that. And people would say to me, and will still, I mean, I've been here over 55 years, and they still say to me, well, you're not a native Texan. So yeah, there is some of that. But most of my career has been built around Texas literature and Texas history. And I feel very much a Texan. And now I'm very much at home. I am writing a series set in Chicago, which is nostalgia. But I would never go back to Chicago. I'd stay in Texas.
Now, you've written a great deal of mysteries. Your mystery output is very prolific. Not only have you written a lot, but you've written many series simultaneously. In addition to the prolific Kelly O'Connell mysteries and Oak Grove mysteries, you have a series that involves food, the Blue Plate Cafe Mysteries. Can we talk about this series and what inspired you to write it?
When my children were young, we went a lot to a friend's ranch in East Texas in a town called Ben Wheeler. And the next town over was Edom, E-D-O-M, not Eden. And it had a restaurant called The Shed. And we ate at The Shed a lot. That was a big deal with the kids, fried catfish on Saturday night. The friends that owned the ranch were very special to me. And somehow I got it in my head that writing a mystery set in that atmosphere would be a tribute to them. And it was the first one where I really worked food into the novel.
Yeah, you have some wonderful recipes at the end of each novel. What gave you the idea to do that? And it's pretty unique. What did the publishers
Well,
think
it was maybe more unique then. It's done a lot now. Probably reading Diane Mott Davidson's Goldie Schultz mysteries, but Davidson scattered recipes through the book. I find them much easier for people to use if they're at the back of the book.
Yeah.
So I just do that routinely. The friends that we visited in East Texas, she was a good old country girl from Missouri, and she and I cooked together and had a wonderful time doing it. So some of those recipes are hers, and they're all kind of down home cooking.
You have received many awards through the years. Among them, you've been awarded the Western Writers of America, and then you've been inducted into the I'll edit this out. The Literary Hall of Fame. Can we talk about these honors and what they meant to you?
Well, they meant recognition by my peers. And I was very, very flattered. The biggest one to me is the Lifetime Achievement Award from Western Writers of America. I was president of that association and very active in it for many years. When I got that award, a friend said to me, well, is that the end of it? Lifetime achievement? No more? And I said, that was 16 years ago. And I liked much better the friend who said, I absolutely know you are too young for a Lifetime Achievement Award.
This episode is sponsored by Culinary Historians of Northern California, a Bay Area educational group dedicated to the study of food, drink, and culture in human history. To learn more about this organization and their work, please visit their website at www.chnorcal.org.
Now, you've written one of the first online food blogs, Judy's Stew. Can we talk about that and its longevity over the years?
It's not really a food blog.
Oh,
It's a stew of writing, cooking, and grandmothering. And my daughter-in-law gave me the name. She said, you ought to write a blog. And that was back in 2006 when blogs were not as common as they are.
yeah.
And I said, well, I don't have anything to write about. And she said, of course you do. And named those three things and then said you could call it Judy's Stew. So it had some cooking in it, but now I save the cooking for the cooking blog.
You wrote Cooking My Way Through Life with Kids and Books in 2009. Can you talk about that book a little bit and what inspired you to write it?
I raised my 4 adopted children pretty much as a single parent. My husband and I divorced when the oldest one was 12 and the youngest one was 6. And I was in a writing group where was writing a lot of memoir. And I kept thinking, I want to write a memoir. But I think a memoir has to have a peg to hang it on. And so I decided that food, as I had known it through my life, would be the peg. And so I divided my life into 4 periods: childhood, marriage, the casserole years when the kids and I were alone and didn't have much money. And then the 4th was being single and doing a lot of entertaining, which I did, big dinner parties and big parties, enjoyed it thoroughly. Now I'm in the 5th period of my life, which is living alone in a tiny space and still cooking, still enjoying it.
You have one work, Extraordinary Texas Chefs, that was written in 2008. Can you talk about this book and what inspired you to write it?
My idea as director at TCU Press was to come up with a series of tiny Texas books. I think that's what they called them. We called them. They would be short, easy to write, priced under $10. People could pick them up for stocking stuffers, casual gifts, whatever. And so this gave me a chance to write about something that interested me, which was Texas cooking or cooks. And I, at the time, had a friend that I went to dinner with once a week. And so this spurred us on to go to new restaurants that we'd not been to. I went to a fancy Dallas hotel. I can't remember the name of it, but they served a 7-course meal.
Wow.
Yes, I thought, I don't know that I can eat 7 courses. But we went various places. Some of it I did by telephone, like what is it? Anyway, the restaurant in Dallas, in Austin, Fonda San Miguel. I did that one by phone, but pretty much I could eat out and count it as a research expense.
I like that.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Are there any memorable chefs that you liked covering?
That I like?
Are there any memorable chefs that you covered in the book that you found exceptional?
No, not really. That I don't think they're anywhere I keep going back. There are some in Fort Worth who kind of dominate, but they change a lot over the years. And that book was 15 years ago.
Right.
So yeah, it's changed. I did work in a hamburger restaurant or steak restaurant for a while.
Oh, wow. I wonder if I've eaten there. I might have. I'm eager to talk about Texas is Chili Country that you published in 2015, which was a Will Rogers Medallion Award. I'm a huge chili fan and I love eating chili in Texas. Can we talk about this book for a bit?
It started out to be a book about Texas food and include beer and beans. And when the editor at Texas Tech bought it, she said, no, I want you just to write about chili. And it turned out by the time you get into the chili wars and the history of it, there was plenty of material for one book. And then there are a lot of recipes in that book. My own chili is what one reviewer, it's in my Cooking My Way Through Life book. And one reviewer called it plain and simple and hearty. And it is. It's simply beef, beer, and beans.
That reminds me, because there's many authors that I follow that write about Texas cuisine. Lisa Fain would be an example. She does the Homesick Texan cookbook. And also I grew up, my mother is from Texas, as my mother's side of the family. So I grew up eating a lot of Texas food. If you could exemplify to our listeners what you think Texas food cuisine is, what would you say it would be?
I don't think it's any longer chili or beef or beans. I think Texas cooking is Southwestern cooking, and the best of it is quite upscale and inventive, and it incorporates a lot of Hispanic elements.
Yeah.
I think it's different than Chicago cooking, although I had great Mexican food in Chicago not long ago.
I know that we always tended to have like beans with a lot of meals, even if it wasn't really something that went with beans. We tended to have beans quite a bit, and we had cornbread a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a certain type of chili that's your favorite?
What I make, beef, beer, and bean. My son-in-law is a very good cook, and I live in the cottage behind their house. Yeah. And he makes chili all the time, but every time he makes it, it's different. He keeps experimenting with different recipes, and I kind of would like to stick to my basic one.
Yeah.
And I serve it with a grated cheddar, sour cream, red onions, avocado.
That sounds just the way I like it. That sounds wonderful. You started a blog, Gourmet on a Hot Plate, in 2018 with an accompanying book of the same title. Can we talk about them and what prompted you to write these?
Well, in 2000, I guess it was 16, I was having some health problems, and the children decided that I could not live alone in my house. The solution was that we gutted the 3-car garage, made it into a cottage for me, and my youngest daughter and her husband and son moved into the house, and it's been a great arrangement. But because of Texas Christian University and Fort Worth zoning laws, they were trying to keep the garage apartments from becoming student housing in these nicer neighborhoods. And so the zoning said you could not have 2 kitchens on one property. Well, obviously, the main house has a big kitchen. So I can have anything that plugs in. So I have a huge refrigerator, but I cook on a hot plate and a toaster oven. I don't even have a microwave. And it turns out that I don't have space for a stove anyway. So I turn out some pretty complicated meals on those 2 things.
Now, I must imagine that this was a very popular cookbook and blog for that very reason, because a lot of people, for various reasons across America, I think they highlighted this with the Hidden Kitchen series, have to use a situation like yours where they can only plug in things. They don't have like a conventional oven, etc. Did you get a lot of feedback on this?
I'm not sure I have struck enough of that audience. I did try to publicize the book to tiny house residents, but yeah, I think it's a coming thing. I think more and more we're getting away from great big spaces, and you can cook well with limited facilities. I got the title for that book from a friend who doesn't even remember she said it to me, but I do try to cook unusual upscale dishes, and yet I do it on a hot plate. It is an induction hot plate.
What are some of the favorite things that you cook on your hot plate?
Last night I made a sheet pan dinner with chicken thighs and all kinds of vegetables, carrots and potatoes and broccoli and green beans.
Oh, nice.
I did coq au vin with white wine and chicken instead of red wine and beef the other day. Oh. I do beef stroganoff. I also feed some picky eaters, so I have to think about who will eat what and who won't eat what.
I have the same issue.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
It's makes it very challenging, but they keep me on my toes. Who are some of your favorite food writers that you like to read?
I like Ruth Reichel a lot,
Mm.
and I even liked her novel, Delicious.
That was an exceptional novel. I really loved that so much.
Yeah, I did too. And her recipes are good. I love that. I can't think of the name of it now, but the journal she kept about her year of no cooking,
Right.
just after she left, was forced out of Gourmet.
Yeah.
I have Stanley Tucci's Taste on my to be read list, but mostly I tend to read fiction that has a food element. So I'm a big fan of Davidson's series, which is Quit. And I like the Cleo Coyle Coffee House Mysteries. I've got a new book on my computer, or my Kindle, called The Secret Recipes of Sophia Valreau. It's about a young chef who is disgraced and goes back to France and discovers her grandmother's recipes. I haven't read it yet.
That sounds wonderful. Are there any favorite mystery writers that you have? I know that you write quite a bit, so you must be a big fan of mysteries.
I like cozy mysteries, although some of them, I can't say this out loud, some of them are getting too cozy for me. All
Right.
the punny titles, I'm tired of that. And I don't want the craft ones, although cooking comes close to that. But I love, for instance, I like Deborah Crombie. There used to be a series called about the chef at the White House, and I really liked that one.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now. Julie Heisey wrote it, but it was a work for hire. And when the publisher decided to quit it, the publisher owned the characters and Julie didn't, so she couldn't go on. I'm getting a kick recently out of what I call outrageous cozies, like Julie Mulhern's Country Club series set in Kansas City. And I'm maybe trying for a little of that with my own Chef Irene, what I'm calling them, Irene and Chicago Culinary Mysteries, because Irene is a pretty outrageous diva.
Is there a trick to writing mysteries? Because I've thought that it must be quite difficult to write a mystery story and kind of make that something that people can then get into, that is it in and of itself as a mystery. Is there a trick to it or something that you employ when you write?
It depends on how you write it. There are two schools. I'm a pantser. I write by the seat of my pants.
Right.
Ask me what's going to happen in the next scene, I can probably tell you. Ask me what the solution to the mystery is. I don't have a clue yet, and I'm halfway through one. I've got some ideas, but I don't know. Some other people outline it thoroughly. Their outline is such that they've half written the book when they finish the outline. I can't do that because it changes as I go. And Elmer Kelton used to say, listen to your characters and they'll tell you what's going to happen. And I do that. So yes, right. And mystery writers, I think, of either school talk about the muddle in the middle. You get to that, which is exactly where I am now. I'm at 32,000 words, and you get there and you think, oh Lord, how am I going to get to the end of this? But you do, you just keep writing and it keeps happening. And when it's all done, of course, the first draft is very rough and you have to go back. But when it's all done, somehow it hangs together.
Now, my wife and I watch a lot of mystery series on TV. Some of them have been around so long, they've been on for decades. Are there any that you're a fan of?
Eddie, what?
Are there any mystery TV shows that you're a fan
You know
of?
what? I just don't watch TV and I haven't been to a movie in years. The last movie I saw was Julie and Julia.
Oh, that's a wonderful film.
Yes, but it was a long time ago. I didn't like the book.
Yeah, a little bit different. Both of them, kind of independent structures and on their own. So what is next for you?
Writing. I'm going to finish this Irene mystery. It's called Irene Keeps a Secret. I would like to do a book, if I could interest a publisher, on Helen Corbett, who was the doyen of food at Neiman Marcus stores and a remarkably interesting lady. a
Oh my
feisty
God.
redhead who was not afraid to tell Stanley Marcus to get out of her kitchen until he had an invitation.
That sounds like a great story. I can't imagine that. I would imagine that any publisher would gobble that one up.
Well, there's a publisher who did a compilation cookbook of her recipes in 2000 and has like a 20-page biography, but nobody has written about her life. And I asked that publisher, and he said, no, I think that's enough. But I don't, and I keep working at it. I've got a lot of notes. Corbett cooked at a time that was very transitional and important in American food. We were just getting convenience food. Julia Child was calling people into the kitchen while Betty Friedan was trying to get them out of the kitchen. I mean, it's a very interesting food period. So I'd like to do that. I have a file folder, and now I have them on my computer, of letters from Dorothy Johnson. Are you familiar with her?
Yes.
That she wrote to me.
Wow.
I knew her, and I thought, that's a treasure. So I would like to either edit them or write an article for them on them. So anyway, that's one of my projects that's off there. And I'm going to keep blogging. You retire from something like the university. You don't, in my mind, retire as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, Judy, I've been really very happy to get to talk to you, and I really enjoyed having you on the program. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
That was my conversation with author Judy Alter, author of the Blue Plate Cafe Mysteries and the recent Gourmet and a Hot Plate. I hope you can join us next week for some really great programming. On Monday, we are speaking with author Anne Ma, whose wonderful books, The Kitchen Chinese, The Lost Vintage, and Instantly French have been my favorites. On Wednesday, we have an encore presentation with J.P. McMahon of the Irish Cookbook, and on Thursday, we'll have author Darina Allen of Ireland's Ballymaloe House Cooking School, who is an author of numerous cookbooks as well, and many TV appearances. On Friday, we'll have Caroline Hennessy of the official Guinness Cookbook on. I look forward to having you hear my conversations with these esteemed guests. Until then, have a wonderful weekend and keep cooking.